And welcome back to another day of another open quarterfinal. My name is Elshana. I am together with Aragon and Don Jake on the desk. Let's start with how are you guys feeling? Aragon.
I'm doing fantastic, mate. I'm super hyped for this series. It's the series I've been waiting for all tournament long. But yeah, pretty happy.
Don Jake, hit me.
Well, you know, the Aurora Open, it's the Game of Thrones. Winter has come, the days are shorter, but the game shall be longer. Let the chaos commence, Artron.
It's not chaos today, though. It is Dusty versus Nativz, an anticipated matchup, best of 5. Only one can pull it through, as we're going to take a look into the bracket to understand where we're standing right now on the Aurora Open. JDXL is waiting for Astralis talent for that semifinal. The first one we already got confirmed. And then on the other side, we're going to tackle Dusty versus Nativz and then toss it over to Riddle Esports versus Bifrost as well. Two Division 1 teams fighting it off to go into semifinals and face who's the winner of today's matchup. Dusty versus Nativz is an interesting one, gentlemen, but I would like to know your predictions for Riddle Esports versus Bifrost. Just hitting you with a curveball. Eragon, what do you think the score is going to be?
Ooh, that is out of nowhere. Bifrost 3-2. I think Bifrost looked better than Riddle. I wasn't convinced by Riddle Esports. Even though Bifrost lost more players, I think they look like they played better in the recent series.
What about you then, Jake?
I'm going to say 3-1 Bifrost for me. I think just in terms of cohesiveness, I think Riddle obviously has, like Aragon said, they're less unchanged members. I think it's only mid that's come through and been changed. But I feel like I've been a little bit off in terms of their performances, and I think Bifrost, for me, I look at the skill ceiling being so high. For me, I think Bifrost takes it 3-1. Could be a 5-game series though.
No believers for Riddle on the desk, so I don't know how you guys fared on the chat. Just let me know who do you think is going to win from that one, as we're going to take a look for Nativz and Dusty. But before we do that one, before we start the desk and actually go for the pre-show, like to understand these two teams, I would like to look into the power rankings, because someone did those. And I know you guys don't agree, but let's just start with Riddle's bumped up one spot on third place right now. Nativz bumped a lot as well. Everybody was really doubting Nativz, but now they're the dark horse of the entire tournament. Astralis, for some reason, went down 3. I don't know why, just because they lost a few games versus Ready. I don't know if you have anything to point out on this one, Don Jake.
Well, you know me, if I'm going to be completely contingent with the kind of fairness and charity of goodwill, then I do just have to point out, it's just something to be pointed out. I'm not going to make a comment on it, but the initial list for this, which was ranking all 16 teams in the round of 16, had us at 15th, which, you know, I really just want to ask anyone, like, what amount of, like, perception altering kind of undertakings you have to be involved within to ever exist within a realm in which we were the 15th best team. But, you know, take it with a pinch of salt. Don't take too much salt because, you know, it's not good for you. It makes you want to drink water.
Potato. But I know you guys have a different opinion, just as you stated, the fact that somehow Ruddy was not on the 15th, I guess, on that power ranking. I know you guys have a little bit of a disagreement, so that's why I'm going to toss it to you, Aragon. And I'd like you to tell me, what is your power ranking? And do you agree with Nativz being on that spot? Tell me.
Okay, no, not at all. Right, so my power rankings are very different to this. I think Riddle is just, what are you doing there? Or like, actually, what are you doing there, Riddle? JDXL, I think the only argument you have them for being like top 4 is that their peak is potentially really high, and maybe they're just having an off few games to start with. I saw them making weird blunders, like Venza dying a load early, you know, falling behind and then individually outplaying later, which I'm not a big fan of. My power rankings are Dusty, then Nativz, Astralis together, and then Bifrost, then Riddle. That's my power rankings. I think they're better than Bifrost because Bifrost are kind of coasting off Shikari and Fury. I think Riddle just looked dead. Like they kind of like a little, very little proactivity, not really doing anything, just scaling and hoping to win. And then Astralis' main argument for being the same top tier for me is that their roster is identical to Summer.
Okay, so question out of the top of my head, who do you think is going to win that Auto Open?
Probably Dusty. If I had to bet on it, I would probably say Dusty. The upset could be Nativz, but I'm gonna go with Dusty. Unless XL kick it into gear, then no, it's still gonna be Dusty, isn't it? You can't really argue against it.
Even if they do what they need to do to win, they're still not gonna win. Yeah, I like that. Good approach. Don Jack, I see a lot of eyebrows moving, a lot of waves on that one. What is happening? What is your power ranking?
I think That is one of the most ridiculous statements that I've ever heard or
Wow.
uttered in my life. Nativz at 2.
Yep.
I think your faith in Nativz is foreign to me. It doesn't make any sense. It's not collated within the realms of fact, to be honest with you. I look at other teams, and I feel like Nativz are on the kind of they're on a sprawl at the moment. You know, they've gotten into Div 1. They're a very hyped up team. It's kind of hard to analyze their power or whatever. But I think that you are MF dooming them by getting high on the gas draws of their entourage at the moment up the rankings. I think yeah, this is very mental to me. I couldn't vehemently disagree with you more. I think people that are ranking them this high, I think they're relatively unproven, and I think for me, although I think their campaign may end today, if they can, the more games they can take today, the more I'm willing to believe you.
So far, you've said a lot of things and no numbers or no power rankings.
Okay. What do you want me to say?
Yeah, what's your power rankings, man?
So I think let's scrap one. Let's talk about.
Okay.
Do you remember in if anyone's watched Bleach that's just come out in there? There's
My
like
man.
a ranking in the Espada for like the guys, and then number one is like the head honcho, and then later on they reveal there was a number 0 the whole time. Number 1 wasn't even stronger. Dusty is number 0 in this tournament. They are.
Okay.
There is a. Do you remember that big ship that got stuck? That was in the Gulf. There's a gulf between first and second in this tournament, and the rest of the teams are going to get stuck in between them. To be honest, I think Dusty well and truly out in front, carrying the baton of victory, and it's up to any other team to see if they can kind of get even close to it. For me, at least.
So where's Nativz?
Nativz, I'd probably put them at somewhere around, below Bifrost, below Bifrost, below Riddle probably for me, and then probably somewhere around Astralis, either 4th or 5th for me.
So you also think Astralis is on the bottom of the power rankings for quarterfinals? Is that it?
Well, I think
you
what
guys
I want to
lost
say
versus
is,
them, so I just want to understand.
well, it's more of a
how
reflection.
powerful is Astralis.
I want to point out another fact. You know me, I'm not really. I'm going to pretend I'm not an opinionated person. That's another lie. But if you actually look at it, and we don't count X7 because they didn't exactly field a Div 1 roster, did they? Let's be honest. We are the only team to take a game off of a Div 1 team that's actually like a proper Div 1 team. So, maybe we weren't 15th. Maybe we were actually a little bit better. We'll have to see. But yeah, I think Astralis a little bit kind of undermined in the face of dropping a game to us. I do think it can be said they looked a little bit shaky, but I think we also stepped our game up a lot. So yeah, I would probably put Astralis around about 4, but I'm trying to think, are they better than Riddle? They might even be better than Riddle. I'm not sure, to be honest.
Good question on that one. Well, let's talk about that further on as soon as we get access to who's going to win on Bifrost or Riddle, or when we jump into the desk of Bifrost and Riddle. That is going to happen on Friday, by the way, for those of you who want to put that one on the schedule and join us on that little party. Moving on to the game of today, it is Nativz versus Dusty. So we have a lot to talk about between these two teams, but if there's any lane we should highlight of superstars for this matchup, should we look into the mid lane, gentlemen? Because Backlund is a beast, yes, but really sitting there with 32 KDA for today, it's not a mistake, okay? Yeah. There shouldn't be a comma in between the 3 and the 2. No, it's not like the other day. This is actually is KDA, 32.
Yeah,
what do we say about this?
Look, I'm gonna be real. When I opened the OPGGs, I mixed up, because I like to scout solo queue. I mixed up whose OPGG I was looking at because they're identical. They're actually identical, but the only difference that really plays Kiana. That's it. They are the same player, and what you need to expect today, right? If you're gonna look forward to something in the draft, is a hyper skill mid lane matchup. You're gonna see your Akali, Silas's, LeBlancs, Yasuo compositions, stuff like this, and it's gonna be a bloodbath in the mid lane and the jungle role.
Okay, that is interesting because you're talking about the way they play, their compositions as well. Interesting to highlight, as you said, they play the same champions. They also play those Yasuo comps. Both teams, I would even go as far, Don Jake, I don't know if you agree with me, that Dusty is, well, an amazing team. That's why they won Summer Split. And it's like Nativz is like the baby version of Dusty that are turning out to be Dusty.
I think there's an element of truth of that. I can kind of see some analogous comparisons between them. For me, Snille and Linkus, they both want to achieve similar things, play a lot of these full clear junglers. I see Snille play a lot of these. He's played Graves twice in the tournament, for example, pulls out things like the Karthus that I know Linkus will play quite a lot. And then, yeah, you talk about the mid lane comparisons. And then I think there's also a comparison to be made in Eddie Carey as well, to be fair. I think Yopper and then Voxnate, both very kind of static lane players that just allow the game to scale up, and it's very much about the 30-minute mark, getting the items on them when they really start to come online and shine. Very high fidelity players, kind of bleed out advantages within lane. I think Yoppa will be hard tasked to do that against what I think is kind of the hyperbolic time chamber version of himself. So yeah, I think there is a comparison to be made there in terms of narrative, in terms of this is really like this is like Magnus Carlsen playing the chessbot version of himself, but it's been like amped up and on steroids.
Yeah, and I want to point out, because we talked about a lot of similar players, right? I think there's an argument for support as well. Both bot laners supports, they want to be dragged around the map, use the Prio to invade with Linsis and Snilly, right? Like, there's very similar playstyles. However, the role that's the most different, which I wanted to point out, which is it's actually top lane, right? Kerberos and Lundorf, they're very different players. You're Kerberos on his Darius and stuff like that. However, the most similar part of them is that they have their go-to picks, right? With Lundorf on his Gragas, facilitating Gragas compositions, but he's much more of a Stonewall player, something more akin to someone like a Shikari, right? Whereas you have your Kerberos on the Darius, on the Nasus, who wants to take advantage of that as best he can. So that's the war of attrition we see in.
It's kind of that we talk. I mean, one of the things I used to characterize that Shikari versus Kerberos matchup that we were seeing last split, and it was kind of the unstoppable force versus the immovable object, which I feel like is kind of akin to what today will be.
It seems no matter where we go, no matter how we approach the subject, it always seems like Dusty has the upper hand. So I'd like to bring something that actually could be an interesting one in favor of Nativz, which is the way they draft and the way they did it, for instance, versus Bast of 5. It was an interesting game, and this is the order of the draft. And I would like to point out that is not a Tristana mid. It's actually a Draven mid versus the Corki. So if there's a way for Nativz to win, it should be with the draft, Aragon?
Yeah, you know exactly right. So I love Nativz draft. They're so creative, and this is where they really separate themselves from Dusty and the rest of the teams, in my opinion. They are by far the most versatile team, like in the entire tournament. They had a Pentaflex draft, right? I specifically chose this draft to highlight it versus Bastu 5, where they put Draven in the mid lane, right? And an AD mid lane or an AP jungle is something they like as well. They put Trundle bot lane. And how do you draft against this, right? I think if they are going to win today, it will be back off the back of the drafts and catching Dusty off guard.
Okay, but when you look into the other side, Don Jake, it's a little bit different, right? When you look into Dusty, they also like to do a little bit of a trolling, a little bit of shenanigans all of a sudden, but it's still an interesting take, like for this. And just as you guys talked about, the Graves is going to be a high picked or a high contested pick. We'll talk about picks later on, but tell me about this, Don Jake.
I mean, yeah, for me, it's literally like you're saying. You just told me not to talk about picks, but how can we not talk about picks when, yeah, I feel like Graves a seminal part of the way that they want to play the game. Pair that up with a mid lane that you can kind of bruise and play for the 2v2. You can see in this game they paired up with the Silas. You're playing into something like the Viego. I believe Hydras that they were playing against put the Heimer mid this game. That was the weird, very strange Heimer game where you thought it was going to go support, but ended up not going support.
Yeah, it went up mid.
Yeah, for me, Dusty are very much a team in terms of draft that they're kind of strangely one of those teams that won't actually be. They kind of welcome a bit of chaos in the draft, where a lot of teams will go, "Oh God, what's going on? What have you just picked? Like, what am I meant to do? I've never played this matchup before." For me, Dusty is very much a team that kind of can embrace and weather the storm of a lot of these things. They're very much kind of the old sea captain of the draft phase, whereby if they see a massive wave coming towards them, they don't think, "Oh God, I've got to take this as quick as possible." They actually freeze the wave, so that's nice.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. I think they're very well practiced in their style, and they probably have seen similar teams to Nativz, right? Like, I completely agree with you, Don Jake. I think they might be able to weather the storm.
Okay, which leads us then to the picks to watch. I think it's really important today, specifically between these two teams, even though they can adapt to pretty much everything. I think you guys picked 5 interesting picks to watch. So let's tackle this one by one. Why the Emmerdinger? And it is the Emmerdinger like the top priority, or just in the beginning just because?
Yeah, so the thing about Heimerdinger is that it's Nativz have shown they value Heimerdinger over almost everything, right? They ban it on red side and they pick it on blue side over everything. Okay, and on top of that, World is getting a lot of attention. Stuff like Heimer Ash bot lane is really, really oppressive. On top of that, Heimer actually counters Stend, right? Because Stend likes his hook champions. I don't know if you guys saw at Worlds, you had the world's slowest damage Nautilus game, where Nautilus played in the Heimerdinger and did his first damage at 15 minutes, right?
Yeah,
so it's a really, really big counter. And then with Gragas, you have Lundorf, who's a big Gragas main. But it also facilitates Yasuo compositions, which both teams play. So that's really big too.
And then done, Jake. Let's move on to the other ones. We do have the Graves. You were talking about the Graves that not only Linces loves, but also it could be landing on the native side. And then you have Silas and Akali. Why these two?
Silas and Akali for me, just because both these players very, very impressive melee assassin players. I think LeBlanc is also one you could have tossed in here if you had a six. Both of these guys will kind of, I think, take both sides of the matchup on any day. I think these will be the majority of your picks. You see a lot of Silas being taken blind to play mind games in the draft phase. You know, you ban out the counter, you pick it on blue side or whatever. So yeah, I think these will be the most contested champions for both of these players. I think it's very much their style of play. Although I think it can be said that Rilla, for me, I think a pretty impressive control mage player, can play things like the Oriana as well for a bit more stability. Whereas I don't see, although I do think Linkers can play it. Although I do think that Backlund can play it, I don't think that's necessarily the way he's going to pivot. I think he's very much going to want to play for, AP mid that can play as an AP assassin alongside something like a Graves.
Yeah, I
So
was
we're about
speaking.
to tell me.
Sorry, go
Tell
ahead.
me. Tell me. Tell...
Oh
No,
yeah,
no. Tell me.
I was
I
speaking
want
to
to listen.
Chimera. I was speaking to
Yeah.
Chimera, right?
It's a
Eminem's mid
mistake,
laner.
first of all.
he was scouting. Obviously, he played what's it called, relegations against Nativz, and he said Rilla is extremely hard to play against because he plays everything. Right, so compared to Backlund, that could be a difference. He plays any style you want, control mages, like you said, stuff like this, right? So that could be an advantage they look for.
Okay, we're about to jump into pick and ban, the first one of today. It's a best of 5, reminding you all of that. There you go, Heimerdinger is going to be the first ban as predicted by the desk. They knew this was going to happen, but we need to understand how Nativz is going to tackle this one as well. You kind of understand Nativz, but it's really hard to draft against them. Caitlyn, supposedly, the normal. Aatrox should join this one. No, because Kerberos is Kerberos.
I disagree. I actually disagree.
Hit me why. Okay.
Okay, never mind. You know what? I stand corrected. Whatever. I assumed, right? So I scouted Kerberos's champ pool, and he's been playing a lot of Camille, right? And it's not that bad, so maybe he let it through. I assumed they'd ban Gragas, but maybe he thinks because of Lundell's shaky Gragas performances, maybe they're okay with giving it and, taking the Nasus or the Darius into it. But Darius has been banned, so who knows?
So Yuumi actually pulls through the entire champion select.
There it is.
And that is a dangerous one, because that way Sten is not forced to play those hook champions, but he's also good on this one.
And I think...
Can you really say good on it? Like, is that...
I don't like the cats. Everybody hates the cat. This is a cat that we don't like.
The prefix for being good at Yuumi is just having the ability to use all 5 of your appendages in terms of your hands.
I think the thing is, right, they've shown they play this, and this is something I want to talk about, right? So I was going to talk about, like, the priorities of champions. They love Seraphine. Okay, every single draft in relegations, they picked Seraphine every single time it was possible. So I imagine what you do here is you match enchanters for the scaling value in the bot lane, right? I think it's going to be Seraphine for sure. Seraphine, Hecarim. Wait, what? Am I trolling?
No, it's Sona. It's Sona Hecarim.
So
it's the silenced Seraphine. I told you, it's locked. This is locked.
So in a lot of scenarios whereby you go the Yuumi, you can immediately slam Sona because it's you outscale eventually, and then the laning phase isn't necessarily punished. One of the things I would be looking forward to now is in terms of what jungle Dusty go for, whether or not they want to pivot towards the bot lane, because obviously Sona relatively easy to punish. It's a bit difficult to do it with the Yuumi, but if you pick potential jungle matchup that can impact it, could be a little bit scary for Nativz.
Okay. No, because that was locked in. We got the information that is locked in, and I had to hold my tongue as soon as I saw that one. Because we used Teemo competitively to announce there was an issue with the champion select, so that's why they're going to say what champion was locked in, and then we'll continue the champion select. It's the usual. Okay. So don't worry, guys. We're going to continue the champion select. Sona and Hecarim are locked in, though, and Yuumi has been locked in. So while we're waiting for the game to come back or the pick and ban to come back, I would like to toss to you guys to understand. You see the Hecarim, you see the Sona. You already know what sort of pressure you're going to deal, at least a little bit on the bot side. What do you pair that Yuumi with?
I think for sure you could pair it off with stuff like, okay, so Diana Yasuo comp could come out. They love their Yasuo compositions. I think it could definitely. I'm expecting a power farmer, maybe Udyr. Udyr is a really good champion with that Yuumi, right? Like it has a lot of value. It sort of fits Linces's champ pool, but I'm not really sure. I've never seen them pinch in this kind of position before.
So then Voxnil was capable of picking, or at least it was announced that Teemo is a Sivir. So
easy mistake to make.
Potato, potato. Yeah, one Yordle, one Princess. I think it's the same. But Don Jake, when you see that pair, you already know like that is an S tier bot lane.
Yeah, Sivir Yumi. I think one of the ways that people don't necessarily talk about Yumi, Sivir Yumi being enough is it obviously very strong pairing. You clear a lot of waves, you can kind of stall out games, do a lot of damage, kind of get in and out. Sivir acts as like kind of like a taxi for the Yumi to get onto your more beneficial carries. So if you play things like I'm looking at maybe if Dusty plays something like a Lilia Yone, for example, something that offers a bit more backline access. What the Sivir actually operates in that composition is as more of a taxi service, which I think could be an interesting thing to look forward to.
Yeah, I think what Nativz might look for here is like the handshake, the scaling bot lane. So a common answer into the Sivir Yumi to match the scaling was Twitch, right? You used to pick Twitch into this back when Zeri Yumi was meta, Sivir Lulu, stuff like this. So maybe we see that pairing together as well. I'm not too sure though.
I was looking into the bans. I don't really recall the LeBlanc being banned, but anyway, it means that Sylas, for instance, is one that is available. And we've seen the priority on Sylas, not only on Worlds, but when you see the hack room, for instance, you see the hack room, you know Sylas is available. Sylas. That should be the mid lane, and that you believe on that. So they pick Yumi and then Sivir and Sylas for backlane. Is that what you believe is going to happen on the blue side?
I think for sure, right? The Sylas with that Hecarim ult is too much, and I think Sylas also scales with Yumi really hard, right? Sylas plus Yumi is just a disgusting combo. We see it at Worlds, you see Faker playing it, you know, it's just nasty.
Well, I'm glad that someone shut all the windows and the doors because we don't have a draft.
Don't worry, guys. We're just running through some issues on. There you go. I just wanted to make sure because I saw that LeBlanc and I was a little bit confused. I don't recall seeing the LeBlanc ban. Yeah, it's the Caitlyn. As you said, on Jake, easily, misplaced, I guess. Confused as well. LeBlanc, Caitlyn.
One of the most difficult things in the world, and a lot of you guys won't know this, you know, viewers in the audience, you've never been a pro player. You've never been in a high-stakes environment like this. Clicking buttons that relate to a avatar that literally reminds you what the champion is, and then it literally says it right there. Reading comprehension quite difficult. You know, it's a highly underrepresented skill in the market at the moment, and I don't blame these players.
Practice macro and micro so much, then you forgot how to.
You know, sometimes the most important micro comes from looking in the right champion.
Akali,
Akali as well. If it's the Akali, I want to understand why. Because he really has played this before. And he shined a lot.
Most prolific champion, to be fair, and I think he probably likes the matchup. I've watched enough Beifeng videos with Midbeast's annoying voice over it to know that this is a decent matchup.
Same.
Kiana stats. Really is Kiana stats. 108 games in solo queue with a 61% win rate. This guy is cracked, right? And he's not going to pick it, of course.
Explain to me why. You were talking about the Akali and the Sylas. Why is this so good?
It's such a prolific matchup, right? So at Worlds, what we're seeing is this matchup handshake a lot, and it's incredibly skill-based. You see some really stupid 1v1s with like 700 dashes, right? But what happens a lot of the time is Akali actually comes out on top of these matchups. Whether or not the Yumi can swing that is the question, I think.
Okay. Unless you're Zeka. If you're Zeka, well,
unless you're Zeka.
All of them. Yeah, there you go. Jax is going to be the ban on the top side, removing a little bit of power for Kerberos. He was already stolen, robbed away from his Darius. The Jax, maybe even the Nasus can join the fray. I don't think so. Seraphine is also banned. They still don't know. That would be an interesting bot lane, the Seraphine Sona. I still recall that at the beginning of this season. I don't like it, but it could be one. It could be one. Since we're talking about that, what else can we see on the top lane? Because I think that's the focus right now for Kerberos.
So typically when you see the Jax bans, I'm immediately thinking Camille, right? Camille immediately comes out. Mordekaiser also counters Camille. This is 100% a Camille pick, by the way. And maybe what we see is some good pairing with Camille, but you've already got a Kali mid, so it's not going to be a Galio composition. I think they're going to blind pick Camille, personally. Or leave it to the last pick, potentially, and leave up the Camille and counter pick it with something else, like Renekton. Okay, so maybe Dusty take Camille and then Lundorf counter picks with Renekton. I think that could be it.
So Pokinson on the bot side in favor of Nativz. You told me about it, and he's fancying that Camille. It could be the pick. Also, Dana would not be a bad one if they're fighting on choke positions. We've seen Kerberos shining on that one as well. But the Camille would make a lot of sense. In blind picking versus Lundorf. Yeah. Lundorf still has access to his own Gragas. It was not banned as well. So that could be one just to survive on the lane.
Yeah, and Gragas is also a good matchup too, but it's not quite the level of Renekton, and they also need a top laner to play through right now, right? They need a top laner to play through. Yeah, they need a bridge. Because they have Sona, Ezreal bot lane, it's not viable. They've got Akali mid lane who's also got no prio, and you know they need prio from somewhere. Yeah, exactly. So I think it's almost 100% going to be a Renekton top lane for the side of Lundorf.
Interesting.
I quite like the Olaf here.
Why?
this is a champion that I feel like kind of exists on the periphery of like your kind of B tier or whatever. I think you kind of thrive in a lot of scenarios whereby, obviously, you know, just obviously Ragnarok, you know, you thrive in scenarios whereby there's a lot of CC, I think, into the Hecarim and Sona. There's an ability to really run over this composition, get a lot of backline access. We spoke about that being a theme for them going forwards with the Civi Yumi. You put it onto the Olaf, he's just allowed to kind of run over the enemy composition. But I think one of the important things that Aragon just brought up there, is I kind of tacked onto, is this element of a bridge. For me, you don't really have a 2v2 to play for. Hecarim needs to kind of scale up and go for full clear a lot of the time. And then you've got this Ezreal Sona that also scale up. Renekton's your bridge here. Renekton gets kind of brutally outscaled by the enemy composition. I'm pretty sure Aragon can just give me a slap on the wrist if I get this wrong. Around about the 2-3 item mark, 3 item mark especially is the real threshold whereby Renekton just cannot play the game unless he's got a really accelerated lead. Gold is very exponential this game and then has a massive dip off for Renekton this game.
Yeah, look, guys, I'm going to be honest, I'm terrified for Nativz. I think they lose early game, and then they don't scale as well, right? I think, when I look at Dusty's comp, I see Yumi value. I see absolute Yumi value with all 3 solo laners, 2 solo laners and the jungle, right? And I also see a melee-heavy composition, which Olaf can auto to keep resetting his ultimate, right? I see so many things that are good for Dusty, and not that much of the side of Nativz.
Well, you know, that means for both of you, it's going to be a first game for Dusty. That's the prediction.
Oh,
you need to toss it to Costas.
No, I want to keep up. I'm like an equestrian Mitski. I always bet on losing horses.
So you're going for Nativz, which also means it's going to be Nativz losing because you're betting on a losing horse. Well, without further ado, let's toss it to the Costas before we jump into the Summoners Rift. Today we have the pleasure of listening to J-Real and the one and only Trouble. Take it away.
J-Real.
Thank you very much. I remember to unmute myself this time, but we are here today. Nativz taking on Dusty. Trouble, how are you feeling today?
I'm really good. I've got my massive egg filled with English tea, please, with milk, no sugar added, just for all the British people out there that are ready to like point their fingers at me. But yeah, I'm feeling really good. I haven't seen Dusty play in a very long time. I'm not going to lie to you. Last time I actually personally saw them play was back in EU Masters. They played really well. They reached pretty far. And I'm excited to see them again. Nothing has changed in the team. So I'm pretty sure they're ready to kick off.
But importantly for the English viewers, specifically right now, when did you put the milk into the tea?
Oh, after the tea brewed.
Okay, not the milk in first. That's what we like to hear. Nope. Into game is what the people at home like to hear as we get into game 1. A lot of favour shown to Dusty from the side of Aragon. Don Jake obviously betting on Nativz, but he did say he was betting on a lost horse potentially. So, obviously, going into this one, how are you feeling about the champ select? You know, is it a huge favour over to Dusty as we are going to be having a break, having a Kit Kat at some point? Just to mention those ones.
But to be fair, if I turn off nameplates right here, I feel like there's incredibly good scaling on both sides. Sona Ezreal lanes become so impossible to play against from one point onwards, especially when you get some mana on your Sona so she can spam, especially when that Ezreal has that one item where he spikes on, and then it just keeps on going ever scaling. Sona can pretty much spam healing and shielding on like a 4-second cooldown, if I'm not wrong. And then you've got Hecarim, who you can go towards a more AD carry build, if you will, nowadays, or you can choose to go for the mixed one with a bunch of damage. Akali scales pretty well into the late game. And I do not personally mind the Renekton, because if you look over on Dusty's side, it's a team that wants to go in. If that Renekton acts as a shield around that edge or around the carry that Dusty are engaging upon, it could very much just work as a scaling, as a zoning tool, later on, and the breeds from early to mid for Nativz. Now I'm going to turn the nameplates back on and say that Dusty are an extremely comfortable champions. The only thing that really caught my eye here is that Stend was one of the most roaming supports together with Kiba from Astralis that we had over in the NLC summer. The fact that right now that playmaking ability and that roaming ability has gone increasingly down due to the fact that he's playing a scaling Yumi could actually give Nativz a little bit more of that early game prowess.
Well, we'll have to see how this one does factor out. You said, Dusty, a team that like to go in. They did go in to the jungle there. Olaf stealing away some of those camps. Snille trying to return the favour, but only getting the Raptors, not getting the red. And now spotted out by Stend as well, being chased away back to his own jungle. We'll see how this one does impact the early game as now Linkus.
I would like to see, I would like to see Linkas invade right here. You've got mid lane prior, you've got bot lane prior, you've got a Yumi. Just chase this Hecarim around in the jungle. You can run with one him. The lower you fall into the jungle, the better it is for the Olaf. You've got your bot lane supporting you as well. As I'm seeing like a 3v3 happening, or a 2v2 and a 1v1.
Ooh, Linkus is getting the trade, but I will say Nativz getting a bit of a better one on the bot side. It's nearly now going pretty low, going to use the smite. Going to be in between three members, though not in a nice place. Dusty picking up first blood. Linkus getting it, and really looming around, but I don't think it's going to be able to make anything happen.
That was some pretty good aggression from Dusty. They used the priorities and the push they had in lanes to actually take that Hecarim out of the game. Now it becomes extremely difficult, right? Because that Olaf has taken away a bunch of the camps. If you look at the junglers, Snarl has about one camp remaining to his name, and that's the Gromp. The golems up top, whilst on the other hand, Linkas has his entire jungle minus the chickens to take away for himself. So he's going to be chilling in his jungle, he's got his priority lanes, he's going to be playing around that. Unless we're looking for a dive towards the top side, because Lundorf is playing pretty aggressively.
Ross really low. Ignite is ticking down. Not going to kill him off though, but is Snillate going to be able to take away this kill? Linkus is moving up and now going to find Snillate, but a level down should mean that he can get away. Hookshot not going to land. It is going to be goodbye to the Hecarim, and Linkus going to go back to farming his top side.
That was some good pressure from Lundorf actually towards the top side of the map, trying to alleviate some pressure from the junglers as well. Now you'll see that the level 2 camps will start respawning from the side of Snile on the Hecarim, so you'll start getting these on, whilst Linkas will have to start cleaning his level 1 camps, like his Gromp, like his Wolves, and so on and so forth. So right here, we see that the Hecarim is already a level ahead. You can start trying to get to that level 6, start trying to make a place into the river.
Yeah, and as you said, there is scaling factors. The Desk didn't necessarily agree, but you're saying that, you know what, Nativz could play to those later stages. One thing that I was kind of talking a little bit earlier about before we even went live was about dragon pressure from some of these teams, and Dusty pretty heavy on that one. Do you feel like Nativz could maybe change the script, get those leads, and push them into that mid-game power spike?
Yeah, absolutely. I think especially if Nativz take the Renekton level 6 towards that bot lane, or if you want to ditch that first dragon and actually fight for Herald, I think that would be a much better position right here, because Kerberos will not have the teleport. Maybe pull a gank towards the tops of the map, kill Kerberos, go towards that. These 1v1s are getting pretty spicy.
Kerberos gonna go low. Well, end off with the heal though, gonna be able to stay alive. Both very low. Kerberos with the slight level lead, but not managing to pick up the win. And as said on the desk, Renekton needs to stay ahead early. If he starts to fall behind, he is going to have major problems. And they said that once you get to 3 items, Camille takes over the game.
Yeah, but it's a little bit difficult now to get any jungle pressure, although that was a really nice cancel from Lundorf right there onto Kerberos. Again, reminder, Kerberos does not have his teleport available, so if his wave ends up being a pretty needy state for a jungler to come and help out, as you can see on the map, Linkas will be on his way towards the top side of the map, but so is the Hecarim right now, so they are threatening yet again, potentially for a dive.
They are potentially indeed. Snillate is there. Kerberos, though, respectfully walking away, not going to stay too close. Linkus is there, though, so maybe they could have their own 2v2 victories here. Or actually, the Hecarim has just left, so it will be a 2v1. They're not going to go for anything just yet. They are just going to walk away back out. As in the mid lane, we are seeing a slight level lead to Backlund. He was level 6 first, getting a bit of pressure. Do we maybe expect these mid laners to start roaming around a little bit more, considering that the supports who categorically normally roam around a lot for their teams aren't going to be doing so?
Usually when you're playing Olaf, you're looking for these brutal early game fights. Again, the lower you fall into HP, the better it is for you. You get your passive rolling as well, as we'll see Hecarim versus Olaf action right here, but Linkas is 1 level up. Again, he's managed to catch up. He had more of his jungle coming up, so he has been able to get farmed up. That Hecarim has been a little slowed down, reaching to that level 6. But when it comes to the 2 versus 2, I think it's whoever pushes the trigger first, whoever chunks someone down ends up winning the trade right here. This is why you don't necessarily see Ryle and Backlund really hard going at it. It's because Hecarim and Olaf are not necessarily really included in this fight yet. But once they get that level 6, you bet that there's going to be action on the map, whether it's towards the Dragon area or the Herald.
Level 6 counter has been set. That's when the action should occur. Right now, though, very quiet map. A lot of action in terms of roaming, but not a lot in terms of kills so far. It does feel like Dusty ever so slightly ahead.
Well, you're saying that.
Lead, although, hold on, Kerberos going to be jumped on here. He's going to be trapped up, and Linkas going to be joining the top lane fight. But a good slice and dice does get him under his tower, and he will be safe.
that's it. He's out. Renekton's out. That means Olaf gets to spend time on the map, which means that Nativz are going to move towards that dragon. Ryle has also pushed in that mid lane wave, which means you get some priority there. Maybe you can steal away the chickens. If your Hecarim must be extremely close to that level 6 as well, but you need to be extremely cautious because Dusty's bot lane is roaming towards the top.
They are indeed, and Voxlane going to catch out Snille. He's going to get to level 6 though. Maybe could turn this one around, or could just run away. They are just going to choose the latter and will walk out. Well, they're saying that with Ghost potentially looking to go back in, but with no support, decides better of it. Going to go into that dragon pit. I think probably back to their jungle.
And you see again, Linkas, of course, has the timers through the red buff. He's going to enter enemy jungle, steal that one away, while Snille is actually trading through with the dragon, has the bot lane pressure as well. So far, so good. There's not much action on the map, but I think this is very due to the fact that both teams are scaling so freaking well into the late game. You can see Olaf falls off, Renekton falls off, so both teams have one champion that would pretty much fall off a little bit into the very latest stages of the game. But everything else scales so incredibly well. Ezreal's going to be so slippery to pin down. Akali's going to be so slippery. Hecarim the same. And also you've got so many shielding and healing coming in from the Sona and all the zone control that a Renekton will provide for you that, again, I feel like Nativz have an even footing when it comes to team fights.
So you're actually saying that maybe Dusty are the ones that need to put a little bit more tempo underneath their belt, because you're saying that Nativz, you know what, they're going to scale really well. They actually have a pretty good game plan if it does come to the late game. That actually maybe Dusty need to be the ones that are getting these early objectives, taking these dragons, really forcing the pressure. Yes, Olaf has been able to kind of slow down Snille's reach, but all in all, not the worst early game for Nativz.
Yeah, and I'd like to see actually what Snille is going to choose to go for. From what I'm seeing right now, it's going to be something like the Sandra. A lot of the times in solo queue, we're seeing the Manamune come out with Duskblade, and fair enough, this is a pretty huge one-shot build. But right here, because you have the scaling, why not be a little bit more tanky? Go for the percentage damage as well, as Linkas is going to be starting that Rift Herald. I don't necessarily think that Dusty need to arc too much in the early game. They do also have pretty good scaling on their team, especially with Sivir and Yuumi. And we saw at Worlds what one person can do when they're playing Sivir and they have a Yuumi attached to them. So I don't think Dusty should be worried at all. Like I said, nameplates off, I think Nativz have a pretty good chance in 5v5s, but nameplates on, Dusty were one of the best teamfighting teams we had in the NLC.
Indeed. Right now, though, onto the bot lane they go. Devoxlane will be able to walk out there easily. Just using On the Hunt will get them away at pretty good speed. And Archer basically said a little bit earlier, Dusty, they're pretty good. Nativz, kind of Dusty light. Does that mean that obviously there is a huge favour to Dusty? Probably. But at the same time, Nativz so far doing pretty good here to obviously show up and show that they are worth of the spot that they have been given. And
it's
right
kind of copy my homework, but don't make it obvious.
Yeah, just change it a little bit, you know. But I don't know. I don't know. If you're in school, you know what it is. You know what it is.
Okay, I'll give you a fun fact. I'll give you a fun fact. I was actually the coach of Clocks back in 2017.
Okay.
When I was coaching for X25, Serbian team. Yeah, so it's pretty fun to see him joining the NLC. Obviously spent a lot of time over in the Balkan League, in the EBL, and now, of course, joining the big boy leagues, I like to say.
Indeed. Obviously nice to see the progression. And I think Aragorn has a few stories as well about this bot lane from Nativz too, from his own time playing. But is it going to be enough? You know, have they grown enough? Have they surpassed where they need to be to pick up the win for Dusty against Dusty? Because obviously Dusty, to set the trend for you guys at home, the winners of the NLC, if you didn't know that. They are the favourites to win this game. They are the favourites in this tournament. So a big hill to climb for Nativz. They are the underdogs, but who doesn't love an underdog story?
Absolutely, and if you look at the CS numbers as well, you've got 10 CS lead top for Nativz, you've got about 10 CS lead bot lane for Nativz, mid lane has stabilized, jungle has stabilized, so far so good. You're not necessarily too scared that the Olaf is about, what, one level up your Hecarim. Hecarim scales much better. Yes, he'll fall behind in the early game due to the priority lanes that you have from the side of Dusty, but if you do get to catch a Sylas, a Camille, a Sivir in a fight, whilst talking about a fight...
Going in, here's Crescendo, that's going to stun up, then Voxlane, he's going to try and get away, but they're going to chase him down. They're looking for the final bit of damage, but they're not going to be able to find it. A beautiful final chapter from Sten holds them at bay, but Yoppa, going to have to flash away there. Didn't want to get caught by the Yuumi.
I just wanted to say that the damage that came out of that cat was absolutely disgusting because then Voxney was trying to run for his life, so he was only throwing ricochets away.
Wait,
and obviously
Sten died. What? The cat is dead. He's not just out of the bag. He's off the rift.
Question mark ping? Question mark ping? Question mark ping?
We'll see what happens. They were looking to potentially go for the dive down bot lane, but I think now that the Yuumi is gone, they decided against it. And
You know what?
Nativz.
My favorite part was that our producer was like, the cat died in our ears. All right, let's see this again because I'm like, okay, it was empowered Q from Sona, empowered Q with full power code, and of course Ezreal connecting as well. Sten playing on the edge right there to get the passive shield on Yuumi and ends up being capitalized upon. But again, that bot lane is doing pretty well. Around 20 CS up right now for Ezreal. Got that Mana Moon stack in as well. Got the Sheen very close to that second item. He's gonna start hurting pretty soon. Now, of course, that's the pretty good macro right here. Taking that refill, popping in the mid lane, 5 seconds for the dragon. Pretty classic stuff right here for Dusty as well. We'll use the pressure from mid on the Rift Herald to probably bleed that pressure into the river and get that next turn.
Yeah, and it looks like Nativz decided they're not going to contest it either. Hecarim on the top side there.
Hold on.
Couple plates nicely coming through, although then Voxney going to be walking up, thought he was safe, but Yoppa was waiting. Going to get a lot of damage down, but going to have to walk away. Does not want to deal with the Olaf or the Yuumi. He'll be giving this Drake over, and that's going to be a Hex Tech for the side of Dusty. What Drake do you want to see for Sol?
I would say not Ocean, because both of these teams have way too much sustain, so I'm like, please don't give us any more Ocean. There's like way too much healing with Sona, way too much healing with the Yuumi, just not anymore. But I feel like Mountain is going to be huge, especially for the side of Dusty. There is so much poke coming out from that Ezreal that's almost got his second item now, banking in that kill, getting very close, being about 20 CS up onto the Voxney. The second he gets these 2 items, you can start moving this Ezreal around and actually properly start forcing fights. You see that the Gold Drinker has been purchased from Lundolf on the top side of the map. So moving these 2 pieces around that are actually spiking right now, itemization-wise, could be really productive for Nativz in that early game.
Yeah, Lundolf really holding his own. I feel like there was a lot of pressure on this top side, right? People talked about Kerberos being a bit of a destroyer of top lanes, and obviously Lundolf being quite a strong wall and a sturdy fortress for the side of Nativz, giving them a lot of pressure. And obviously, if that was to be broken, it could be more than heartbreak for the side of Nativz. But right now, Lundolf keeping himself very much in this game. Snille is up on the top side. I do wonder if they go for this gank.
I think I'll give everyone a hint right here. It gets serious when the Darius gets pulled out for Kerberos. Right here, Kerberos is being chilling onto the Camille plane for the team.
Oh, but he's going to get put into fear. Going to jump with the hook shot, though. What an ability this is, but getting charged down by the Hecarim. There's the kill. Lundolf under the tower will pick that one up. They're now going to be able to take this first tower as well, and now they can start doing what you said. They can start moving their members around the map when they're spiking.
I mean, very well played. Linkas might find Snille though, but Lundolf is going to stay, and that's going to be a 1 versus 2.
Oh, Ragnarok though available, does stop the stun, but now not going to be able to catch the Hecarim, looking for the Gator instead. Still has access though, could be looking for the kill, will pick up 1, and it will take down Snille, but it's traded for a tower in the bot side there. Sorry, I couldn't see where that was going. Dusty going to be able to pick that one up. They've had a lot of pressure on this tower all game, and although Nativz have got the farm, they don't claim the structure.
Ooh, and I love the Essence River being purchased by Yoppa as the second item as well, which means that his mythic of choice might most likely be an AP item or a defensive item, or he might go straight towards something like a Duskblade. But my thought process could potentially be that maybe he goes towards something like a Luden's Echo or a Crown to keep himself either poking even more with the Luden's Echo or getting a little bit more defensive. Again, I feel like the fact that we haven't necessarily seen Linkas a lot, because it's more of like a farming jungler where he has very stable lanes, they hold on their own, he's farming his jungle, and then he gets enabled on the map. Now he is enabled on the map. He's found himself these 2 kills, he has his Gold Drinker, he can start making plays, he's 20 CS up onto the Hecarim, 1 level up as well. So you'll see that now the Sivir and the Yuumi have come out of lane, now he's gonna come out to play as well.
Indeed, nice to see that one. Crown also bought on the sides as well. As a mid laner yourself, how are you feeling about this item? You know, obviously kind of coming back into the meta a little bit, although hold on a second, Lundolf going to get a pretty heavy trade with Kerberos.
Yeah, we'll see now how, because when we're talking about Dusty, the warding control was impeccable, the macro was impeccable, the way they were rotating around the map was impeccable over in Summer and over at EU Masters. So this is usually where a team that in textbook is weaker than the team they're playing against might get caught off guard. The second the towers start falling, the second the vision starts going down, the second you have to walk into Fog of War, because talking about Fog of War, all of your champions towards the bot side of the map are pretty squishy. Even if the Hecarim has to walk in, he might have to be set into a situation where he has to ult out, therefore he's rendered quote-unquote not as useful in engaging because that ult power has been taken away from the champion. And seeing a triple longsword being purchased by Yopa, I really want to see that Dust Blade being completed in the inventory.
He's going for full power, looking to really pick up some bodies later in this fight. We'll see if he can keep scaling, keep conveying that one. As right now, Dusty going to put some pressure onto this top side. Lundorf may be in big trouble, as they could be sending a lot of members. It's going to be 3 for this tower dive, but the wave has been cleared. Hookshot going to be able to get the stun up. Here comes Linkers, and with the Yuumi should not die. They're going to be able to pick up that kill. Kerberos with a beautiful transfer of aggro onto Linkers. It gets out safely as well.
And what can Nativz take on the other side of the map? Because it feels like mid lane's being very nicely guarded by Backland. Seaver's going to be on their way into that mid lane as well. And they're looking to dive Backland, but the Voxney is just around the corner. They might just be okay with just taking some damage down onto the tower. But Dusty are going to get away full free with this one. They get a lot of pressure down on the top lane tower. They get a kill onto Lundorf as well, and they don't miss that mid lane tower. But due to the resets that are coming in, they might lose a little bit of that tempo, which means that Nativz are going to walk into this river first.
TV coming through, Linkers walking with the Yuumi in tow. We try to see it really get a little bit damaged out, but wasn't able to get anything just yet. And now this is where the poke can come in, right? You said that the Ezreal can become an absolute menace with the Sona. They are keeping them at bay. They're going straight for this dragon, but they're maybe trading it for this mid lane with seeing the Herald get dropped.
Yeah, Herald's going to get dropped because Dusty don't mind actually trading that mid lane tower for the dragon, actually opening up the map again. I guess a team that is weaker than you on paper is so much better. You get so much vision into opponent territory, and you actually dare them to walk in, especially since there are a bunch of squishes on the side of Nativz. So you're going to trade this. Next time the next dragon comes up, Dusty will be more than happy to actually start dueling. There will be a second item most likely onto the Sivir, second item onto the Celis as well. And once your two carries have the second item up and completed for themselves, you want to start fighting. But all in all, this is Dusty. Very slow, very farming heavy, very methodical, very #we scale boys. And they're showing up how resilient they are to not have to unnecessarily pull the trigger for things.
Drake picked up. We're going to see the trade of 2 extremity towers there. One in the top lane for Dusty, one in the bot lane for Nativz. So able to keep the pressure going. Gold lead still in the hands of Dusty. They are up by about 2.5k. And we'll see if they can keep growing that one. Obviously having a pretty nice start to the game. Maybe able to extend this mid lane. I thought Buckland was going to be able to get on to relay there, but he's able to just jump away.
And we'll see now what they're going to choose to do with their lane assignments, because we see already Camille has moved towards the bot side of the map. Going to push it. Stop him up there. What's Linkus? He's overextending, but he's fine. He has his ghost, he has his ultimate, and they're going to start looking for picks. Now, one thing that is very difficult for Dusty right here is unless you have Kerberos to lock someone in, just an Olaf running in at you with Zoomies and Yuumi ult is not going to be that easy for Dusty to pin someone down. Again, especially there's so many slippery targets for Necton, Hecarim, Akali, Ezreal. It's going to be so hard for Dusty to pin anyone down unless the Camille is over, which is why, again, they're making Kerberos move towards them, start looking for some picks. But again, it's difficult. There's so much scaling, there's so much poke, there's so much wave clear from the side of Nativz that you either are going to have to dive them or get a pick if Nativz overextend.
Yeah, and I guess that kind of plays back into that vision that you talked about. Now they've taken the 3 outer towers, they can start getting that deeper vision around those jungles, but also protecting those objectives like the Baron, like the Dragon. They can start setting up a bit earlier. Obviously, we have to wait a little bit of time for the next Dragon. It's going to be 2 minutes 50, but Nativz pretty happy to stay in the clear. They're just staying underneath that tower, not trying to give Dusty any free wins, any free kills.
I think we're going to see action again if one of the two teams chooses to pull a trigger towards a neutral objective, such as the Baron or the Dragon. Of course, it's going to be Dragon Soul Point for the side of Nativz, so Dusty will most likely want to pull the trigger right there and try to fight them. But as we've mentioned, second item APA completed for the AD carry is going to be that Mortal Reminder. No, it's not Mortal Reminder. you can help me with this one.
Geralda's Grudge? Is it Geralda's Grudge?
It's Geralda's Grudge is the slow one for Ezreal. I'm talking about the severe anti-heal item. I know that it's built from Executioners, but I don't remember the full name of the item.
I have gone blank as well. It's okay. It'll come to us. It'll come to us in time. You know, we don't have to worry about it too much just yet. But what we do have to worry about is potentially a Baron being started up here by Nativz, going to clear some of that vision.
And I wonder here if Nativz are going to choose to actually walk into this river, start warding from early on, try to get a pick somewhere. You see that Ryle is already on the top side, pushing in yet another wave. He's most likely going to push another wave and then actually come back. They've got pretty deep vision as well. If you see Lundorf, he has his teleport up and available. There is a ward very close to that red buff on the bot quadrant of the jungle at the very back, which usually stays a little bit unnoticed on the bot quadrant of the map towards red buff.
Indeed, indeed. We'll see how long that one lasts.
You know what? I appreciate our observers because I tried that one. Thank you very much, observers. Thank you very much. That's the ward that I'm expecting potentially Lundorf to TP on, as Ryle has actually gone with the Ignite, which is something we don't necessarily see a lot. We see a lot of Akali's play with the teleport and Ignite, but Linkus might be in trouble. He might have to actually use
flash away though. Ezreal going to have to try and get out of there. It's now Clock's in big trouble, going to go down to Kerberos, and they've taken another Hecarim as well. They're absolutely running through the team, and that's another one. Yoppa going to fall too, and Lundorf now in the mid lane, all alone, going to be left to die by his team, and they're going to be able to go for more pressure and more pressure. Baron is on the cards for them. They could have the tier 2 as well.
And Dusty, all they need is one pick, and they have the ability to continuously run you down. The speed ups by Sivir and Yuumi, the running from the Olaf with the ultimate, who is unstoppable. And Dusty, again, we said next objective is going to be when they pull the trigger, they find their pick, and they're gonna take the Baron. Right here is where it starts getting a little bit easier for them to start sieging. You've got a Sivir that's extremely powerful at sieging. You can actually split them up as well. 4-1 Camille. Who's actually gonna go against up against Kerberos on the side lane? You can't. You need to bring at least 2 people to stop him. So huge sieging power onto this Camille. You can bunch up the rest of 4 members together, and they're actually first in the river to take control of that Dragon Soul point and take it away from Nativz. Nativz, though, looking like they might want to contest because they have all their ults up.
Might do indeed right now. Linkus trying to just go straight for the dragon. He's trying to just say, I'm not going to really play with you. I'm just going to ignore you and take this objective. Looking to secure this one. It's going pretty low. 1,000 left on it as now they will pick this one up. And Nativz on the run. Camille trying to get a pick, but not finding anything just yet. Really in the smokers in the backline. Backline going in with the ult, trying to look for the kill. Yuumi just locking them up for ages. It's so much damage onto the back. They pick up another kill. And now Kerberos in the mix. He was left on his own, but it did not matter. You're stuck in here with me, he says, as he picks up 2 more. Another big win for the side of Dusty, and they are just showing off how good they truly are.
And that's a surprise with Dusty, baby. You're looking for the box and you're like, this series is putting down way too much damage. We need to actually assassinate her, and it's the right mindset. You see that Ryle and Lundorf stayed behind, tried to snipe and Voxney, and they did. But Kerberos right now, level 15, 2 items in, 5, 1, and 3 of this Camille. Linkus 4, 0, and 6, 2 items on this Olaf and Buckland are doing so much damage that they can actually compensate for the Voxney being dead in this fight and not necessarily helping too much with the damage department. You have 3 more carries on the side of Dusty. And if we look at this replay again, you'll see that Nativz don't really want to commit, and they do want to commit. They get split up right here. Riley is like, look, I have my sights on the Voxney, and Kerberos stays behind. But whilst the bot lane of Nativz is melting, you see that then Voxney also dies. But the fact that Kerberos stays behind, he keeps 3 people on him. And by that time, the rest of the Dusty are back. He still have his ult up, and they just clean up house.
Yeah, and while we watched that replay, I looked through the League of Legends binder and found out the item was called Mortal Reminder. So, you were correct initially with that one. Blockbuster now also being brought up as the Voxney might have new items, but he's also got some new friends. They're going to be able to pick up this kill, an easy one for Relay, but Kerberos looking to avenge his fallen ally. Snille locked into the Hextech ultimatum, and Backlund on his way as well. Relay trying to juke this one out, but gets slowed, and he might be getting sent back to the fountain real quick. Kerberos with the hook shot, and that is going to be a LeBron James to send him home.
And I just want to say how Dusty has a lot of similarities with the old rogue, if you will, the inspired type of rogue, where slowly but surely they will choke you off on the sides of the map. They will take resources from you. They'll take farm from you. They'll be so solid in the laning phase whilst the jungler is farming to get strong. So this is very reminiscent of the old Hansama inspired rogue where they're just, it's like 27 minutes in and you're like, how in the world are they 10k up and how in the world is back on an enemy base?
What? What's happening? He just went 1v3, just walked away, pretty much full HP. Man does not care about all that, and he was able to just walk out for free. Damn, this Silas is strong, and Dusty, they are playing to their strengths. They're 10k up right now, they're pushing the tempo. Yes, they only got 2 dragons out of 2, but it does not matter. They're taking everything else on the map. They're up 5 towers to 3, and the gold is showing it.
And they have a pretty good front-to-back team fighting as well. And the fact that your Camille, who is the one that's most likely going to be starting the fights, locking someone down, is so fed level 16, 3 points into that Hextech ultimatum as well. As you can see, though, talking about this Camille, she's been surrounded by 2 members, this is Ryle and Lundorf, and let's see if one level 16 Camille can actually 1v2. I think they just decided otherwise. They're like, nah, just let him leave for now, it's fine.
Yeah, playing the fear game there, a little bit of chicken, and I feel like it is Kerberos that did win. Well, you may not even know they were there, but we're going to see how this does impact right now. If they can't challenge onto that Camille, which obviously the Desk did say, 3 items becomes an absolute menace, then how are they going to play this game, right? Because Dusty could easily execute that 1-4. They could go for that split push and really have that danger coming out. The Olaf and Kerberos just being very happy to chill by themselves as they do miss the hook shot. They're going to go with the Hextech ultimatum, and what is that damage from Yumi? But there goes the return. Status is going to be used by Kerberos. Lundorf trying to step forward, but there is the final chapter, and it just locks them up. Really, it's going to go onto the back line, but it does not make a difference. They're just dropping like flies, and there's be another one. They have to just look to the skies in hope that someone could save them, but Yopper is not going to be that guy. He will fall down, and it's going to be Dusty once again, just taking them to town. They're going to wear the crown for game 1. They're looking to end this one.
Honestly, such a stellar fight for Dusty. They were bouncing back and forth, the tower aggro so stellarly, and now they're just going to use that mid lane, 4 members up, you've got the severe, you've got the damage. They're just going to end this game 1 pretty cleanly, I'd like to say.
Pretty cleanly indeed. Like, yes, okay, early game, felt like Nativz had a horse in the race, but that quickly did end. Dusty picking up a little bit too much momentum, and they're going to take this game 1-0. The Desk, I guess, they were correct.
I mean, you can never really doubt the NLC summer champions. They were summer champions for a reason, and honestly, seeing how they can be very versatile as well, right? Sten was one of the most heavy roaming supports that we had over in the league in summer, and the fact that now he's stepping back, he's playing the Yumi, he's more of a facilitator for the team, also being on blue side and having Yumi open, you don't necessarily want to give it over to your opponent, so you're like, yeah, even though I do play the engaging supports or whatever, you know, I'll just grab it and play that too. Again, honestly, a very old rogue-esque game where they just deprive Nativz of any resource on the map and they just choke them in gold.
Is this, you say this is maybe a little bit of a different side of Dusty, but is this just one look, right? Like they're not necessarily saying they've changed this style. They could just run it back the way they used to. Like, if we look at some of the champions that they picked, Kerberos had like 3 champions in the whole tournament so far. Yes, they've switched up a little bit today, but they could go back to that old way as well, no?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I think the only one who switched their playstyle right here is Stand. Because he's like, I'm going to put down my Nautiluses, my Leonas, my Amumus, and I'm just going to play an Enchanter. I think the rest stayed exactly as we knew the good old Dusty.
Okay, indeed. Well, we're going to hand it back to the Desk. They managed to pick this one up right. So sit tight, and we'll be here soon.
Thank you so much, A Real in Trouble. Thank you for this first game as well. Donjek. Now we'll talk about that in a minute. But it is a victory coming in from Dusty. A fast one as well, as Elegon just takes his leave. I don't know. He's gone. He's just gone. So explain me the glasses. Why all of a sudden you put on the glasses?
I don't know. I don't think there's sort of a denoted feeling that suggests that I should put these on. You're asking me if there's a method behind the madness, and the answer really is, Archeron, there isn't, to be honest with you.
Never was.
There's absolutely no methodology. I don't even exist.
Okay, so I'm alone on the desk.
Listen,
apparently.
there was a crash 5 years ago. You were going from Lisbon. You were going to your new NLC job. There was a crash. This has all been a simulation. It's all a fever dream, Archeron.
I'm not a host. I knew it.
You never made it to the NLC.
No, that is Ominous. Okay, we're just waiting for Aragon to return to this one. Well, if he's still alive, I don't know. I don't know what is happening. Meanwhile, amazing game coming in from Dusty's versus Nativz. This is something that we were talking about in the green room. The fact that it can just go in with a pre-plan. Welcome back. And let's start with the beginning of the game. The way they were capable in invading and shutting down completely Snille. Aragon, I think you had some way of explaining this to break this down for us, for dummies like me. So tell me.
First of all, I don't know what happened there. My browser just died, but it's all good. Basically, we we saw some weird things happening with the draft. Look, I'm gonna be real. I don't know how many times we have to see pro players let open Yuumi, think they can handshake it with some kind of skill check draft scaling match. It just doesn't work, right? Especially when you give over so many things. And then on top of that, you're giving away early priority in both mid and bot lane, which allows Olaf to invade the Hecarim, who needs priority to farm. And then your only win condition is top lane, where because you don't have a great diving combination or anything like this, and you have a scaling mid laner who can't come up to dive on early waves, you have to just deny slow pushes. But even then, Lintus is matching that, so there's really no win condition outside of scaling, but then you get outscaled. So what is there to do?
It's interesting because we brought the fact that mid lane should be a lane to watch. Even the top lane could be one of them, but in reality, the way we should be looking at this matchup should be the junglers now.
Yeah. So I definitely do think that in this series, every single game, a jungler will be behind 0-10. Okay, every single game, because both teams are excellent at shutting down the enemy jungler. Both teams absolutely do play for it.
Don Jake, you want to talk before I toss them?
In terms of what I believe is going to be the tapestry that is built this series, that is painted and woven, it will be very much by both of these junglers that we're saying. I think a lot of the action that you see is facilitated by the jungler, like you've just suggested. For me, I mean, one of the ways that I kind of describe that game to you, I think one of the important characteristics we have to bring up to characterize it is kind of Nativz tried to play their game, and Dusty refused to play them on their terms. Although we characterize them both as being similar teams, this was a game of Dusty, the older brother, in terms of its genesis, its advancement, in terms of maturity as a unit. This was the older brother pushing the younger brother's head back with the arm to prevent him from swinging at him. Nativz were never able to really, bite at the kneecaps of their predecessors, so to speak. And I think unless they're able to do that in a more convincing way, and I think it has to start in draft, I'm not very hopeful for their chances in the series.
That was something that I was talking with Jay Real before we jumped into the live broadcast. I'm like, this could be a game where Dusty just joins in, doesn't allow Nativz to do what they like, which is team fight, and win a game in 1 or 2 team fights, which is exactly what happened. They got 2 amazing team fights, and we're not going to analyze these team fights that are going. I want you to guide me through how important is this. We don't do anything until we click the trigger, and then boom, we win the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's just how it is, right? Like, on one side, you have Dusty, who scale really well. On the other side, you have Nativz, who also scale objectively well, but just not as well. So Dusty are really comfortable doing nothing, playing to Stonewall, right? And just collecting waves under turret whilst Linsa shadows. That's all they did all game long. And then they're just stronger in the mid game, right? I think going forward, at least, I think I want to see something different out of the side of Nativz. I want to see clocks on those roamers again. I'm thinking about his Rakan, stuff like this. I don't want to see him locked in lane with Sona. He's so much better on roamers, Bard, Rakan, stuff like this. He's iconic for. And I want to see. No, honestly, I think that's just the big puzzle piece that's missing. I don't want to see any more handshaking. Obviously, the Yuumi ban, but then roamers as well.
I think if Nativz handshakes with Dusty, they're going to find their fingers completely broken.
Yeah.
I think that's a valid point, and yeah, these are the team fights we wanted to highlight, to the fact that they just needed to pull the trigger out of the starvation they brought in through the beginning of the game. We were saying this is a boring game. It's in plan with the Dusty plan. Think you're scaling until you're not.
And we keep talking about like what Nativz did wrong, but just credit to Dusty, because they knew their spikes and when to fight. What their win condition was. Give over a dragon, who cares? We outscaled regardless, and they were really disciplined on that. So props to them for that.
So tell me something, because we were expecting, or you were expecting, the Seraphine to come in through. It was the Sona, and then I was listening to you. We were talking about this. What does it mean picking up the Sona? Were you expecting the Sona with something else, or something else with not a Sona?
Yeah, I mean, I think Donja, you had a good point with this, but what I was thinking was that maybe there was some shenanigans, because I really expected something abnormal in the draft from the side of Nativz, right? Because I highlighted like they like to draft something weird, so I expected something like Sona Seraphine maybe. But then Dusty, maybe they smelled that and they banned at second rotation, right? So who knows? But I didn't like the Sona Hecarim lock-in. I much prefer Sona Seraphine with the Hecarim. Yeah, exactly.
That's like making a romantic comedy in like, I don't know, like Belgium or something. It just doesn't make sense. The themes just aren't there.
There you go. That's the way to put it in. And all of a sudden, we're going to toss it to a small break before we come back to the second game of the series, reminding you that this is a best of 5, and this is also a fight for the place on semifinals. We already know who's gonna fight on the left side of the bracket, Astralis versus JDXL. We're still waiting to see what happens on the right side of the bracket on the Aurora Open. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you in a minute.